The movie begins with a beautiful woman and a man packing their bags as if they were going on a nice vacation. Before getting into the car, the man also pockets a pair of handcuffs in his bag. We can see both of them driving somewhere mysterious, a place far away from the city. It was clear the husband, whose name is Gerald, had big and exciting plans for his lady, who is called Jessie. On their way, they encounter a wild dog about to devour a dead rabbit, which looked by no means suspicious. Finally, they reach a beautiful location with a whole ocean at the backyard. It looked like a dream location for most of us. While sitting idle, she encountered the same dog and offered it some food, while Gerald was taking a power pill and get ready for a great time with his wife. The dog slowly walks toward Jessie to be able to eat the meat Jessie offered, but suddenly, Gerald came and scared him away. We can see Jessie was laying on the bed for her husband, who comes out without much clothes on. There, they passionately begin to kiss each other, while feeling the warmth of each other's lips. Gerald pushes her away into the bed. Jessie looked hesitant of the act, but goes on with it. Gerald started to use the handcuffs on both of her hands, to which she looked pretty surprised and nervous. While Gerald drinks some water, she notices he had taken the power pill and thinks this might be the reason for him to act this weird and aggressive. While Gerald on top, Jessie began to feel a bit uncomfortable, but he wanted her to go on with the act. Gerald calls himself daddy, while she had enough of him and began to shout at him to stop and uncuff her right away. He reveals this was the reason for them to travel up here. But Jessie did not think it was going to be something like this. She finally opens up about their relationship. It has been months since Gerald touched her and came up with this plan to work things out. Gerald put all the blame on her and denied uncuffing her from the bed. Slowly he comes near Jess's face, where she cut his lip using her teeth. In about a minute, Gerald stopped speaking anything. He acted as if he was having a heart attack and collapses on top of Jess's body. This makes her panic, and the anxiety was on top of the roof for her. She tried to stand him up with her legs, but pushes him out of the bed instead. She started calling for help and tried to talk to Gerald, as if he was acting dead. But not so soon after. Her worst nightmare comes alive and she sees Gerald's blood slowly spreading on the surface. It has been a couple of hours. She hears a noise outside, which sounded like someone cutting the grass. She was assuming someone to come and rescue her from the spot and begin to call for help. As the sound comes closer, it was the dog she offered food earlier. Little did she know, the dog was still hungry and comes closer to dead Gerald while making hungry noises. He starts to smell him, lick him, and does the obvious. While she was struggling and panicking in pure frustration, seeing the dog eating the obvious thing, she felt hopeless. Suddenly, Gerald wakes up from the dead as if nothing had happened to him. But she still sees dead Gerald's hands. She was confused what was going on, while Gerald was sarcastic about her personality. He reveals maybe he was not the person he always showed her. Maybe there was a dark side of him hidden behind. We are not sure if Gerald was still pranking her or she was just going crazy. Finally, Gerald begins to solve the mystery for her, and reveals she had lost her mind seeing her husband in a brutal condition. He explains to her she always run away when she is not able to handle something, which is her mind in this case. Her hallucination also explains how he gave a whole week off to his gardener and servant because how he wanted to play with her and did not anyone to disturb them. Jessie tries her best to free herself from the handcuffs, to which she finally succeeds and takes a sigh of relief, just to know this was her hallucination. She also began to accuse Gerald's 5 inches for the reason of her death today. Gerald continued to insult her decision sarcastically, but her own hallucination gives her motivation to wake up. Her hallucination suggests he put her into handcuffs way before Gerald did, and even Gerald's hallucination was surprised to hear who he was, which will be revealed later in the story. Jessie tried to reach for her phone using her legs, where they suggest her to wait for someone to find her. Gerald reminds her that she won't be able to live for more than 3 days without water. This was all for just one pill and some short-time enjoyment, to which Gerald explains how he took the pill for the first time ever, and since then he never left the power pill. He even depicts the way he did it, which was really harsh. At that point, she didn't know who she really married. Jessie was desperate for some water and gets an idea when she imagines Gerald taking his pill and putting the glass on top of the bed shelf. She slowly tries to use both of her hands to move the glass full of water, and it finally reaches her hands. But she was so desperate for water that she forgot about her handcuffs. Her hallucination suggests her to put it back on the shelf, where she could reach it again. Dog was still there and proceeds to devour Gerald, which makes her panic. She finds a paper from the shelf, which she roll up and make it as if it was a pipe and proceed to drink the water and clench her fist with it. Her leaves some water for later too and puts it all back on the shelf. Jessie was very tired and falls asleep after a small talk with her imagination. At night someone comes through the door, which even makes the dog run away from the spot. Jessie wakes up and looks around to find no one there, except herself. Suddenly, she sees a black shadow hiding along the curtains. The man looked worse than a zombie, perhaps an old one. He comes near Jessie with a smiley face and show her some bones, which was again one of her hallucinations. Gerald comes back and says she was not safe anymore, makes her scared of all the things that not only people can do, but the ghosts as well. He suggests maybe the guy had moved under the bed and he can put his cold, dirty hand on her soft skin. There won't be much she will be able to do. He calls her by the name Mass and she falls asleep to come across her past life and dreams. She was with her whole family. It was a place far from the city, in countryside. Everyone was ready to go onto the boat, while she herself was scared of the boat and did not join her family. Later, she hear her parents arguing about her, where her mother was totally pissed at her. But her father seemed to care a lot for her and talks supportive of her. Sometime later, her father comes by, play a nice song and sits beside her. Her father looks at her and remind her of how she used to sit on his lap and look at all the stars. Father calmly asks her to sit on his lap again and pretends as if it was a bad idea. Seeing his father's wish, she could not resist herself and sits on his lap while looking at the sun. This father was worse than she thought and begins to do something no one could have imagined. The woman finally wakes up back into the hellhole. This time, her whole body could not move because of low blood circulation. She was crying in pain, while the dog was also present there. Jessie began to move her legs for the blood to move. There she also drank some water and put it back on shelf. Jessie's hallucination started to call men like a dog as well as her father, where Jessie herself didn't want to blame her father. She explains he just touched himself and not her at all, to which hallucination reveals the thing her father did something even worse and mysterious in the bedroom, about which she will reveal later on. In a while, Jessie noticed footprints on top of the blood stains, which were definitely suspicious. We are back into Jess's childhood. Her father comes into her room and says sorry while feeling guilty. He suggests her that maybe they should tell their mother about the incident. He keep insisting her about this. Her father told her to either tell her mother now or never in her whole life, to which she was left with no choice and promise her father that she will never reveal the truth to anyone. It felt as if he was playing a psychological game with her, since she was young, and they end up making a deal. Her father was angry at himself and tells her nothing has ever happened and walks away, hence leaving her devastated. Suddenly, she hears a sound of licking and finds the old scary zombie-looking guy licking her legs. But in reality, it was no other than Dog licking her feet, where she struggled a bit with him before he bites off Gerald and devour him instead. Gerald tells her that no one has found her yet, but sooner or later people will start looking for him. He has appointments. If he does not attend them, people might look after him. He says caretaker might smell their rotten bodies and call the cops while whispering this to her. This felt like Gerald was sucking the remaining life out of Jessie, which reveals a lot about their real relationship. He suggests everyone will think this was just an accident. Through the talk, he was taking away all her hopes, while making her really anxious. At this point, she was ready for her death while singing and humming a song. She falls asleep and dreams about the same location she was at. In her past dream, there she walks inside her room and sees her younger self handcuffed. The young girl makes her realize that she always had everything she needed to be able to survive. And we come back to a memory where her father was putting a bandage on her hand, which makes her realize she can cut her own hand and survive. They begin to argue on giving too many reasons to her, how she won't be able to make it. Once this starts, she will have to do everything quickly or she will be dead in minutes. Jessie slowly picks up the glass, while telling the dog to stay wherever he was. She finally breaks the glass and put a piece behind in the middle of the shelf. Using the piece, she slowly accumulates enough courage to rip apart her whole hand while screaming in pain, and she is finally able to free her hand from the handcuffs. Jessie moves away her bed to pick her phone up, but it did not have enough charge. She moved her bed toward the key and finally free both of her hands. She washes her face and put the bandage on her hands and fell off due to weakness. She wakes up at night, where the dog was trying to bite her. She was about to pick up the keys, but sees the dog grudge at something. It was the same scary old man. There she gives him her diamond ring and drives away in Gerald's red car. While driving, she was barely able to concentrate due to weakness and again start to hallucinate about the scary man and the eclipse, due to which she ended up getting caught in an accident. Nearby was a house, which heard the noise and two people came out of it to help the hopeless Jessie. There she was rescued and we find her inside the hospital where everything had been paid by the insurance. In spite of that, she was still going through the nightmares, where scary old man would haunt her time to time. She finally told this story to everyone, including what her father did to her, which relieved her pain a lot. After 6 months of all the bad memories, she finally sees the picture of the same scary man she encountered back at the lake house. She finds out the man was going through an abnormality due to a disorder. He even taken away his own parents and did worse things. In the last 5 years, he had taken away many lives, but for some reason he left her alive. Finally, we see Jessie going into the court, while the scary guy was standing there. When she walked near him, there he says she is not real and she was only made of moonlight. She see all the men inside him, who had abused her whole life. Finally, she says, He was so much smaller than she remembered, and we can see her walking away from the court. This meant she had finally realized the man was real and now will be given a sentence. Hence, she is safe and can freely live her life. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video to support and recaps. We will be back with another interesting story soon. See you around.